Well, hey, folks, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever and whenever you are watching or listening to this episode. This is a Q&A episode, so we got a couple of great questions from Danita Del Mar. Thank you very much for the questions. This is on a CDP or CT, CDP-choline or CT-choline video I released sometime back. At what time should you take CT-choline? More during the day or at night? And if it works for my nervous system? Thanks again for the questions. Let's go with the first one. Should you take it at day or at night? That depends on your situation. I will describe how it was for me back in the day, and then how it is now. So I'll use my specific situations, and then you can apply it to your situation, because I only want to give recommendations for myself because I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is strictly for information purposes only. So my first IT job, because I am in IT during the day, supplement slinger at night. My very first job, boy, this was over 24 years ago, so almost a quarter of a century ago. I was troubleshooting internet, like consumer, residential internet connections is what I did for troubleshooting. And I had the graveyard shift. I specifically chose the graveyard shift because you got a 10% shift differential. We got 10% more money by working overnight. And I needed the money. That's why I also had a second job, because I had rent to pay, food, all that stuff, all that fun stuff. I would have been using it before I went to work because it involved a lot of mental. You had to listen to what the customers say, their problems. You had to troubleshoot their computer issues, etc. All right. I was in school as well back then, college here and there. I would have taken it before a lecture, before studying, or maybe before a test, a big exam. That's when I would be using Citicoline. So if I'm studying, that could be at night. It could be in the day. So for me, I would use it before you're going to be needing a lot of mental horsepower, before you're going to be using the old noggin. All right. That's what I would do, because it's a nootropic, and that's what nootropics are for. Now, reading into the literature, there is some information which I will go into more detail, because I want to follow up with this with a more of a deep dive episode. I'm just kind of trying to be as brief as I can. There is some information that taking Citicoline can increase other neurotransmitters, which may promote wakefulness and arousal. So then if you're taking it before you go to bed, then it may give you trouble going to sleep. So keep that in mind. Those are my recommendations for me. Again, kind of keeping it brief, not trying to get too much into sciencey stuff. Now, the second question, we will jump into a little bit of science, and that is, will it work for the nervous system? Sure, it can work for the nervous system. So CDP-choline, cytidine or cytidine, I've heard it both ways, diphosphocholine, you have cytidine or cytidine, choline, and then there's two phosphate groups. Now, there's some information I've read back and forth on this. Again, I'm not a doctor. That it's either most of it or all of it's broken down in the intestines. I've read that some of it's broken down in the liver, but it is hydrolyzed into cytidine and choline. Now, choline can be used by the liver. There are specific transporters for it to get into the brain to make acetylcholine. So that's good. Acetylcholine is a neuromodulator, per Dr. Andrew Huberman, who has infinitely more knowledge. I said pinky in a previous episode, in his eyelashes than, if eyelashes had knowledge. He has infinitely more knowledge in his big toe, I'll use that, than I would ever have. So very, very smart gentleman. But he calls it a neuromodulator. I call it neuromodulator/neurotransmitter. But choline is able to cross through transporters on the endothelial cells into the brain, and then there's other transporters to get into the neurons, cholinergic neurons, to where it makes acetylcholine. All right, so very important for memory, focus, attention, stuff. So that's good for your nervous system. Now, the cytidine is converted. This is a long process, which again, I'll go into more detail later, but it gets converted into uridine. Then uridine gets converted into uridine triphosphate. It's phosphorylated. And then the uridine triphosphate gets converted back into Cytidine triphosphate. What's the importance of that? Cytidine triphosphate? Well, it is used in the Kennedy pathway. I described this earlier on a 2-hour-long choline YouTube live that I did, a year or two ago. But cytidine triphosphate is used in the Kennedy pathway to ultimately produce phosphatidylcholine. What's phosphatidylcholine? It's a phospholipid that is used to make membranes of cells, including neurons. So very, very important to the nervous system. All right. So that's just brief explanation on two of them, the two questions. Again, I'll follow it up with a more deep dive in case nerds like me want much more science-y information. I couldn't think of a good adjective there. Science-y information. So, hope that helps. Thank you so very much for the questions. Keep them rolling, folks. Like, subscribe, share, follow, whatever the case may be. Until next time, much love to you all. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.